Vivienne,
Yes.
we're colleagues, but you're from a different continent. This is Europe. You're from South Africa, quite a different context to do the ethics of care, to do research. And you've talked about the research you are doing there, and you have been doing there with colleagues. And there was some very interesting stuff on consciousness raising of students from different backgrounds. Could you tell us a little bit about that research?
Yes, thank you. It came about in 2005. I got together with colleagues from the University of Stellenbosch, and they were feeling a little bit dissatisfied because neither they nor their students had contact with people from other universities. And we also, I work at a historically black or disadvantaged institution. We also our students didn't have contact, and nor did we as teachers. So we wanted to get together to plan a project which would bring people together to talk about difference, to talk about their histories in South Africa. And we were looking at the notions of community, self and identity, because these are notions that the psychologists were looking at in community psychology, and also social work and occupational therapy students. So we sat for about 6 months to plan the project. We also applied for money from the Dutch funding from Sandpad, and we were lucky to get that. But we were planning the project around social justice and the ethics of care. And we were thinking of what would be the best ways of getting students together, because even in terms of their writing skills, they were very differently placed. So we thought it would be best to start with drawings, because it would be more of a participatory parity. And in fact, it turned out, and I had anticipated that the privileged students were very taken aback in their interactions, and they felt really, that our students, who are black students coming from very poor backgrounds, had a very rich story to tell. So it completely actually reversed the power relations, which was very interesting. Also, the white students are used to being in a majority, and as the one said, I don't know if you remember the video, I come from a very protected little community. Many people live in gated communities because they're very afraid of crime and that sort of thing. So, and South Africa is still geographically very much as it was under apartheid. So white middle-class communities live. And I mean, if you visited Stellenbosch, you would think you were in the Netherlands, because it is very manicured and very white, and the buildings are like Dutch buildings. And you won't see a black student. It's a town like Utrecht, where it's a university town. So these students came, and they were very afraid to come to our university, because they thought that they would be met with a lot of anger. But in fact, it wasn't the case. So we got them to draw their communities. And this started a conversation, obviously, about the apartheid past, about why I've got so many resources in my community, and you don't have running water, and you don't have electricity. So the conversation started there. But for me, the interesting thing is that they continued talking online. We uploaded the photographs online, and these students continued talking together with the facilitator. But we also introduced critical literature. So it's not that community is a wonderful thing, but community is also quite a problematic concept.
Yes.
So we wanted them to start thinking critically about self, community, class, race, profession, institution. We were bringing a whole lot. And when thinking back, yes, it was a life-altering experience for some students, but in other ways it just reinforced stereotypes, because we were trying to get rid of the stereotype that in psychology it's a more theoretical profession and social work is a practical. And then right at the end, they did presentations on community self and identity together. So, and then the one psychologist said, in psychology we are the theorists and then social workers are implementing. So the social workers were sitting there very angry. So, you know, in 6 weeks you can't accomplish a great deal. But it was very interesting in the reflective essays that students wrote.
And so, to be more precise, you invited the students to draw, draw their social background, their community, and the place where they would place themselves on the drawing. This is where they are?
No.
No.
They looked at the resources that were in their communities and the things that they would wish to change if they could. So then, and then they did another drawing of a river of life, which was their life history and why they had chosen their specific profession. And many of our students are, you know, they would say so many people in my family died from HIV/AIDS, or, you know, they revealed all these things. But what students found is that they established some sort of commonality and some form of communication.
Yes.
Where if you and I just sat down to talk, we wouldn't get to that depth. In such a short time, without those drawings.
So it was a great idea to invite them to draw and to use.
Although also some students in debriefing felt very resentful about this. About being forced to be so personal, not knowing the person. And the one very reflexive student said, now I know how clients feel when they come to see a psychotherapist or a social worker and they have to just spill their guts immediately.
Well, that's highly reflective. Very good. Now, if I have understood you rightly, black people, white people, other groups probably also from Indian background or other, so a very mixed background, but also backgrounds with a lot of history in between, so to say. I mean, apartheid is not that far away, as you already have said. Was there the dimension of future and of common future, or is it too far-fetched? It's more about today and yesterday, and not that much about the future.
Well,
this talking of together.
We wrote one article called "Apartheid Was Your History, Not Mine," because some of the students, you know, they're young and they were born actually after apartheid.
Yes, exactly.
But the fact is, if you scratch a little bit deeper, you know, race relations are still very tense in South Africa, and it's only in doing these sorts of things that one is going to make any difference, because the Stellenbosch students seem to feel quite patronizing. Their idea is that they would go in to help the poor.
Yes.
And, you know, this is something, it's because you don't have contact with people as people that you feel sorry for them and you feel that you are there to help them.
Yes.
So I think, you know, one has to really arrange for more cooperation across communities and across institutions if one is going to step into the world together.
Yeah.
I mean, there are more racially mixed schools and universities, but I think in terms of social class, people are still very far apart.
Yes.
But I should imagine, you know, that's the same in other countries, maybe here too.
Oh yes, very much so.
Yeah.
But that is one of the reasons to be so excited about this
Yeah.
research of you in South Africa, because translating it or trying to translate it to our conditions, I would be really very enthusiastic to try such a thing, but also very reluctant, exactly because of this distance and of, well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite an endeavor to ask people to draw and to
Yeah,
talk. And
it is.
Would you repeat it?
Yes, yes.
Yes?
Well, we did
Even with the
repeat
drawings
it
and
in fact, we're going to do a course with people in government institutions working in water management.
Okay.
And I used to work with an NGO, which is actually an early childhood NGO, and we use these techniques, and people like them very much. You know, you can get people talking about various social issues. And in fact, the Bernard van Leer Foundation, which is in the Netherlands,
Yes, yeah.
uses these techniques.
Okay, interesting.
Especially with young children, because they can't talk, and then they can draw things and express themselves in that way.
Yeah.
So it can be used with, you know, a variety of people.
Yes, yes.
And I think, you know, often, and we are now involved in teaching and learning in higher education. So we've just had a course on the scholarship of teaching and learning in higher education, and we got these academics from all different universities, and to draw their trajectory as researchers. And we're analysing their drawings now and writing a paper about
wonderful.
that. Yeah.
Great.
So, you know, it's
an experiment.
yeah,
yes.
you can use it really with anybody.
And one last question.
Yes.
I started with saying that it is a kind of consciousness raising. What to your mind, is the importance of this kind of consciousness raising between groups with so many tensions for the ethics of care? What was the relation between the ethics of care and this kind of consciousness raising work?
I think with the ethics of care, I would bring difference into care, and I think that the only way that one can begin to confront one's own prejudices, one's own assumptions, is in confronting difference with others. So I would, you know, I'm very interested in the notion of privileged irresponsibility, and I think that this is what we didn't expect to come out, was so much how people would feel ashamed about their own privileges. But I think when one is in the center, one is largely unconscious. And you know, you in South Africa and in other countries, the whole society is predicated on using the services of the other in order to exist oneself. And for me, that's very important in care ethics, is to be aware of that, to be aware that we can exist only because other people are helping us to exist. And that those people really should be acknowledged.
Thank you very much, Vivienne. Thank you.